Hello, Kaspar. I'm really thankful that you find the time to answer to a couple of questions regarding the strategy making and then the innovation and innovation creation in your company. What I would like to start with is that I would like you to introduce yourself, introduce the company you work for, and introduce the daily responsibilities you have in the company.
Okay. My name is Casper. I'm founder of Wolf 3D. Wolf 3D is a company that's creating virtual humans. Yeah. What we do is we are building technologies that capture human human likeness for different virtual experiences like games, virtual reality applications, augmented reality applications, and so forth. My daily responsibilities is like overall like team management, um, strategies, and business development.
Mm-hmm. Where did you get this business idea, or how did the business start in the first place?
Well, business started roughly 4 years ago. It's a lot different that it is right now today. The initial idea wasn't exactly the same. We've been iteratively building the company by going through different stages of and building different products. So we're not what should be considered as a traditional startup. But in general, we were very excited about how can we bring or capture people in a physical space and recreate them in a virtual ones.
Okay.
And because of that interest, there have been different projects right now that we do is a bit different than it was in the early days.
Okay, but in the beginning, I don't know if I remember correctly, but you were mostly dealing with 3D printing, weren't you? Or was it something else?
Yes, so in very, very early days, we just did 3D printing. 3D printed different objects. Soon after that, we started build our first photogrammetry-based full body 3D scanner that basically captured full body, people and made digital copies of them. And we basically 3D printed those copies, so people were able to create, small figurines of themselves.
Oh,
that was the first hypothesis that people want to have, 3D pictures of themselves, essentially. Well, the technology was very complicated. It was very expensive, especially expensive to build the scanning rig itself, and the final product for the end consumer was also very expensive. We quickly learned that yes, there is some kind of interest in that specific product, but it's not scalable enough to make it a good business. Although we learned a lot throughout the journey, we learned that people don't want to replicate themselves one-on-one. They wanted to create an idealized version of themselves for the virtual ones, because the main question we were asked is, why should I create one-on-one replica of myself for the virtual one? I want to have something that represents me, for example, like a face, and then customize my looks, make a little make an idealized version of myself. And after that, we built another hardware product that essentially worked like there was one different project before we actually started building our hardware 3D scanners that we were able to make scalable in a sense. We essentially, one of the doctors approached us with a problem that they wanted to figure out how they can convert the volumetric ultrasound data to a commercial 3D file. Usually those are proprietary files, built by the manufacturers, and you are not able to convert those files. We figured out how we can do it, and after we were able to make the first print of one of them, at that time it was like a fetus in a sense, not in a sense, but it actually was a fetus. And then Reuters called us and told us that, hey, we heard that you guys can do something like that we want to be in your office in 5 days. So we essentially built the whole business and everything from scratch in 5 days. So also the product, and built the story around that. And it went super viral. Like Washington Post wrote about us, and it was our product was used in political campaigns in the US because of the abortion issue. And we really thought that now that's attraction. Like this should fly. This will fly. So we very quickly, in 5-6 months, scaled the international hospital network of over 50 partner clinics all over the UK and Europe. And we scaled the team very quickly, but we didn't listen to the end consumer. We were basically fooled by the illusion of PR.
Okay.
Like the PR created, like an illusion of demand, like the demand that actually didn't exist. People really talked about that, but we didn't figure out how can we reach those people. And we started scaling before knowing if there's actually like real demand for that.
Okay.
And after failing with that, we took a few steps back. We were like, shit, we need to do something else. We are very good at digitalizing people, so we should continue doing that. And started building a hardware-based 3D scanner booth, which worked like a photo booth. So it worked autonomously. We were able to build a network of those booths all over the world. We were even able to sign quite large contracts with some of the largest movie studios and some of the biggest photo booth manufacturers in the US. We also raised a round after that, but during the whole same process, we realized that we have already gathered enough data to actually build this technology on the phone. And basically that's the story, where we just killed the hardware product, took all of the booths that we had on the market, because we were able to build it scalable, but it was expensive. And it was tied to a certain location, but everyone has a smartphone in their pocket. So that was the reasoning behind that. So we can more or less produce the same thing on the phone, so we should kill the hardware product. So those are the iterations we have went through.
Okay, but what was the idea behind the booth? Was the aim that you go inside it, so it works like a photo booth, that it scans you in, and then you get like a replica of yourself? Or?
Yeah, so essentially, again, it worked very similar way as the very, very first product, where you went into this photo booth, you went through the process, like we went to scan, which essentially was like taking a picture, and then afterwards we shipped you a like 3D printed figurine of yourself. And quite a lot of people even enjoyed it. We had customers and people were buying it, but it was, the numbers didn't make sense in a sense.
Okay, but coming back to the origin of the company, have you stated the vision? Do you have a vision statement or a mission statement?
Yeah, I think from very early days, I mentioned that we are interested in digitizing people, and our mission is to bring humanity into virtual worlds.
Okay.
What's virtual world? We will see in the future. It will be created either, we see that there's going to be a computing platform shift, which means we will see a new computing platform, either it be AR, VR, or some other like MR, like, in other words, virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality. They are, in a sense, different technologies how you can consume the content, but they are all built in a 3D space.
Okay.
If the whole world was digitalized as a 3D space, you need someone to represent you in this 3D space. So right now, today, we don't have those people, and or something that could represent us. And our our goal is to bring us as humans into those virtual spaces.
Okay. What is the way of making money out of it? Is it just that you function thanks to the money you have raised, or is there any possibility for you to earn from actual consumers or customers?
Down the line, I don't know. The short-term strategy is, meanwhile, the AR/VR MR market is growing. Our focus is on the gaming market, and we are licensing our technology to game developers so they can integrate our technology into the games, so we can take their players and put them into their games.
Mm-hmm.
We are also working with smartphone manufacturers so they can put this kind of technology into their smartphones
Okay.
and provide this technology to their users so they can sell more hardware.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Coming back to the strategies, do you currently think or feel that you have several strategies, or is there only one particular strategy that you want to follow?
No, I mean, we have. So, in a sense, we're also working on different vectors, which
Mm-hmm.
means we have different strategies for different vectors. As a startup, we are, in a sense, we are like in a investigation stage, or like finding the right path, or the first path stage, which is we have our consumer application, we have hypothesis how we can monetize the consumer application, and we have some of the biggest fashion brands that are using our technology, and we are figuring out, not figuring out, but we are, kind of building technologies for them so they can do virtual fittings. And this has a very different, like strategy in a sense that gaming sector has.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do have different strategies, and as a startup, we just listen and see, learn, and then take it back to the team and iterate again on the strategies. How can we provide the core part of the technology we have to all of those different vectors?
Mm-hmm. Okay. By listening to your stories that you have changed your business idea or the course, so to say, a couple of times compared to what it was right at the beginning, I assume that you have been forced during these situations, that you have been forced to change your strategies. How difficult has it been to adapt to the situation and adapt your strategies, or change your strategies right away, fast? As you said, you had to change or create a new platform or create a new business within 5 years. 5 days, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we are very open-minded. We listen to the market. If the market is saying something, and we believe that that's the right way, we will change it. We, like every developer we have, every employee we have, everyone has the right mindset. The work we do right now can be relevant tomorrow.
But what do you sense? What is the implication, or what determines the success of some kind of strategy? How do you count the success, or how do you measure the success of some particular strategy?
Well, I think in when you're creating a specific strategy, you have to set some kind of metrics that you want to achieve. So essentially, you're making a hypothesis that hypothetically, let's say I get 10,000 people using that product in that certain amount of time, and they are paying. Then on a very, like, let's say I get a niche group of people using one specific product, and they're paying for that, and they have an understanding on how can we scale it to the larger group of people. Then for me, this is a validation that if I if I validate something on a small scale and I have an understanding that how can I make it huge, or how can I scale it, then this is a validated strategy for me. But what makes a good strategy is ability to adapt.
To the market situation.
Yes. If something changes today, you and your team has to be able to change as well, and not be conservative and really stick to your plan.
But how or when do you realize that some kind of strategy is not working, or the strategy you have been tied to is not working? Are you trying to kind of pull off the strategy, or do you want to take a step back, think again, and change the strategy rapidly, rather than go moving on with the strategy, although you know that maybe it will be difficult, maybe it won't work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I would say if you're very into something and you're working your head down on some specific stuff, then sometimes it's very hard to notice what's happening around you. And what we are used to doing is, we take a few steps back. We look at the numbers don't lie, and we look at the feedback that we have gathered in the market. We look, if you end the conversation without knowing if it, let's say there's a negative answer that you constantly get for your strategy, or the business model is not working, or there's something wrong with the product in a sense, then you take back, you look at that data, or how many people have said that, and if it makes sense, then you have to adapt to that, because that's the thing that market is telling you. And that's, for example, for us, it's just having strategy and product meetings, just looking back, looking into data, just between team, just discussing, we have this data, we are doing those things. Are they aligned right now? If they're not aligned, then there's something wrong, for example, with our product roadmap, or there's something wrong with our business strategy, or if the business model is working, why it's not working. What's the barriers to entry for people who want to work with us, and why it's not working for them.
Coming back to the company and to the core business of the company, how is your company unique among competitors? Or asking directly, is there any competition in the first place?
Yes, there's definitely competition. The differentiator for us is how we are positioning ourselves with the story we have. So our background, as mentioned, we have a very unique story, starting from building the hardware, going the hard road, difficult road in a sense, gathering data from the market, and then based on that real data, building a product that gives value. That's how we are, that's how we have created our story, that we tell the customers, in a sense that our competitors use very different technological approach to solving this issue of creating virtual humans. There's some advantages they have, and there's some disadvantages they have. We position ourselves in a way that we use our advantages that we have, which is we can do the best quality virtual humans right now on the market there. And that's because if there's some other company that wants to do it, they can go through this difficult road of going out to the market and gathering this real data of other people's faces as well, to build this technology. This is a huge barrier to entry for other people, and that's our positioning right now. We don't do honestly, we are not that large of a company right now yet to focus that much on positioning, but we analyze the things that we can do well. For example, quality, and we see who are the clients that need the quality the most. For example, gaming sector is they need high quality, digital assets in order to work with companies like us. And some of our competitors, they do, their product is very, very fast, but they don't produce high quality. So in a sense that we position ourselves working with game companies rather than something else that needs very, very fast solutions, but there's not requirement of high quality. So again, this is our way of some sort of, or it's just like our way of positioning ourselves.
Mm. But where do you expect to be in the future, let's say in 5 years?
Well, that's a good question. That's something that we are constantly discussing within the team as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changing because we're learning more from the market, and we're trying to adapt our vision to the market.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, as mentioned, what we're trying to build is we are building a technology for virtual humans. We want to be in the center of your experience, whatever you're using. So right now you're using, for example, Facebook. Facebook is not 2D screen in 5 years or 10 years. Facebook is a 3D space like we are here in this room. We want to be the first thing that you go when you enter your internet or social story. You take your avatar. You can have whatever different options of how you look in this virtual space, and you log into this virtual experience through Wolf 3D account, for example.
So basically, it's like real life, but on the internet or in some kind of software.
Yes. So the world is moving more towards 3D spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ton of companies trying to figure out how to build Skype in a virtual space. So meaning, how can we have this one-to-one interaction in the virtual world?
Okay.
There's companies like Facebook building social VR experiences, like building together building a world where people can share social experiences, talk with each other in the virtual world. For example, like having a virtual party, like regular party today. And there are companies who are just, building virtual cinemas where people can go to cinema, watch a movie together by just one person being in Egypt and another person being in San Francisco. And our positioning there is we are the company who is bringing all of those people into those platforms or those products.
So you're basically creating people.
Yes. We are in a sense your virtual identity, whatever application you're going to use in the future.
Okay. All of this sounds relatively crazy for me, to be honest, as I have not had any kind of connection to virtual reality. I've never used the glasses. I don't have any experience. But coming back to the thought of selling the ideas you have had throughout the years of the existence of the company, I assume that you have been forced or have wished to sell all these crazy ideas in order to raise the funds. Mm-hmm. Has it been difficult, or how have you been able to sell the crazy ideas?
Well, fundraising is always difficult, no matter what you're doing, because people have to trust you as a founder, and they really have to like your story. In early stage investing, there are two things. It's the team, and it's the story behind the team, and the future story with the team. And you have to build, create trust in a sense. How do you create trust? You create trust through a good story. And story has to, reach the other person. In a very simple way, human brain is divided into like 3 stages. You have neocortex, you have mammalian brain, and you have the little crocodile brain, which is our survival instincts. neocortex usually makes very logical decisions, and mammalian brain makes those emotional decisions. The story that you're telling has to relate to the other person, hence reach their mammalian brain, because you can be in a very you can be in situations where you're asking very logical questions and the answers are yes, yes, no, which is our neocortex is making all of the work, but it's never making the final decision. So in a sense, if you want to sell your ideas, you have to generate a story that's adaptable for the other person, whether it's an investor or a client or whatever it is, who he is. But yeah, it's you being trustworthy and your story making sense, and other person being able to adapt that, and feeling emotionally connected to your story, and him or her wishing to be a part of what you're creating.
But what is different in selling those crazy ideas to internal and external stakeholders? Is it more difficult to reach external stakeholders, external venture capitalists, angel investors, whomever you want to include in the business, money-wise, or maybe just as a mentor? Or is it more difficult to sell the ideas to your partners in the company, as you are not the only founder and not the only employee in the company?
Well, if employee-wise, if you already have the employees and founders and etc., it's easier to sell it internally, because those people, they trust you, they know what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, and they also make decisions based on what are your strengths and weaknesses, because you have generated trust within them. If you're trying to get a new employee, it's much more difficult. Similar with venture capitalists and advisors and so forth. So it's the level of connection you have with the person, whether it's like a completely stranger, whether it's a mutual friend, or whether it's a good friend, and whether it's someone who you've known for the last 10 years. Based on that level of connection you have with the person, I would say that's where the difficulty of selling whatever you want to sell to a person comes from.
Okay, but how are you able, or how do you sell the strategy, or make your colleagues or new employees, for example, understand the strategy and the meaning, the core meaning of the business? Do you employ people who are on the same same route, or walking towards the same goal as you are, or are you just employing people who just like the job and want to work for you or together with you, but they don't want to proceed the same idea?
If the person doesn't want to, if the person doesn't believe in the mission, they're not the right person for us. They can work on some other company. As mentioned, from very early days, we had an idea to bring people into virtual worlds. I think throughout all of those years, this has been our mission in essence. It has slightly varied and changed, of course, but this has been, the fundamental goal of why we started doing what we do. And the vision itself is compelling for employees and for investors and so forth. If they understand your vision, it's easier to communicate with them. If they don't understand the vision, then we probably are wasting each other's time. It's not my responsibility to make you change your mind or invest a lot of time to change your mind. If you don't believe into that, then you just have to find another person. You have to make decisions very quickly. Yeah, if you're walking into a room and, for example, with an investor, and you're essentially pitching him or her, and they ask either very stupid questions or like rhetorical questions, and they really don't understand, then you just have to say like we shouldn't waste each other's time and just walk away and find another one. Because people always have different ideas, and the in most cases or some cases just they're not working well with each other, and when we employ people as well, we want to understand that they have same values that we do, in a sense.
How many founders are you?
4.
4 founders of the company. Is it easy for you to find a compromise, or do you have to often stand for your own views and thoughts, or is there a common understanding of what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I think we have a common understanding of what we want to achieve, where we want to go. But when presenting ideas within let's say founders, we are very we're pushing each other very a lot. So if you come with an idea to me, I'm always trying to poke holes into idea just to understand whether it was something that you thought of while walking from home to office, or if it's something concrete. Do you have data to prove your facts? Like, have you tested your hypothesis? I think like this culture just makes the decision making process better, and it makes people think more about the things they're proposing, yeah.
So basically, the main goal is the same, but you always still have to pitch your ideas. You have to stand for your ideas, but you support each other. But don't let anyone kind of lose the track.
Yeah. So essentially, if you picture it, then you can see we want to go here, but everyone has a different journey how to reach here. Which journey is right? Nobody knows. And that's when there's sometimes arguments around, what's the right journey to reach the finish line. And of course, we are, when somebody comes up with a different strategy, hence the journey, then we are, asking a lot of questions to make sure whether it's something that's like well thought through, or it's just like emotional thing that I read this thing, or making sure that the decisions we make are relevant and they are backed up by some kind of data.
Okay, I see. Yes, I do think that I have received enough answers for my questions. I will write a summary of your answers, and I thank you for the time. It was really interesting to listen to such kind of journey of one totally crazy business idea, and then to hear how you have been able to develop the company, change your strategies, and find a totally new path to follow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.